Anytime. We okay to go? Good evening, Council. Thank you for your attendance and staff and guests. Today's meeting is being held as a hybrid meeting. We will call the meeting to order at 7 p.m. We will begin this gathering by acknowledging that the land upon which we meet is the traditional territory of First Nations people who have a long-lasting relationship with the land, water, and regions of Southwest Middlesex. We convey our respect to our Indigenous neighbors and thank them for their contribution to our culture, community, our past, and partnerships that we'll have in the future. Members of the public are invited to participate in this meeting electronically. They will receive a registration link to join the meeting. Members of the public may also attend the meeting in person at the municipal office at 153 McKellar Street. Today's meeting may be streamed live as well as recorded and published on the Southwest Middlesex YouTube website. Council, I'll call for disclosure of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof. Is there any member of council declaring a pecuniary interest? Okay, yes, Amy, Councillor Choi, please go ahead.
Yes, I have a conflict with 8A2 fire compensation review.
Okay, thank you very much. And no other conflicts? Additions to agenda, are there any? Yes, Deputy Mayor.
We actually have a moment of silence for the chief fallen officers.
Yes, I think that was very good. I intended to do that during the announcement section, so we'll put that in the announcements and the two Innisfil officers. Any other additions? Council will entertain a motion that the Council of Southwest Middlesex accept the agenda as printed. Okay, thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Scholdice, discussion. All yes, Mark, did you have a question? All in favor? Carried. Delegations and presentations. It is early in the agenda, and both the chief and I and our CAOs thought that this would be more than likely in happening. So what we'll do, we'll just go into the consent agenda number 4. And Chief Sewell, should they not be here following the consent agenda, are you prepared to entertain to start that, or would you rather wait for them?
I do believe we're, Mr. Mayor, I do believe there's 2 individuals that are going to be on online joining us. So I believe one of them would be prepared to present it. We just wouldn't have one individual in person, but we will not delay the council proceedings to have this presentation completed. I
think out of courtesy for the delegation, we'll just move on with the consent agenda and see what evaluate the situation following that. So council will skip 4, go to 5. 5A is September 28th council meetings. I'll take a pause, look for your hands. If you wish to discuss any of these, I think we can do it in the sequential order they appear. No questions. 5B, Southwest Middlesex vouchers. Yes, Councillor Vink first, followed by Councillor Scholdice.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. I went to send an email to Kristen this afternoon, and unfortunately my email wasn't working. So I wonder if Kristen can answer 045727 $11,955 touch of class painting and renovations. I just wondering what billing that involved and whether that was part of a budget.
For sure. This is the balance of the payment for the painting of the train station, the pavilion in Appin, and the Eckford Community Center.
Thank you, Councillor Schuldeis, please go ahead. Okay, no problem. That's great. Okay. Yeah. Any other questions on vouchers? Yeah, there was educational apportionment there and significant insurance costs as well. Hi. Middlesex County calendar. Middlesex meeting highlights. And 5E, Township of Alnwick, Haldeman resolution support, a map for wildlife. Yes, please go ahead, Councillor Vink.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. I'd like to support the resolution.
Is there a seconder for that? Thank you, Councillor McGill. Discussion? I think it was on my radar as well to the two councillors to pull that out. I think that has to be evaluated. There is significant crop loss as well as livestock loss that is not being addressed. And I think that has to be looked at as well. Any questions? All in favor of supporting the correspondence? Carried. And 5F, Municipality of Grey Highlands Resolution, speeding fines. Council, I move that we support that resolution. I get calls regularly about traffic moving too quickly through residential areas, and if the increase in fines were there, perhaps it would do nothing more than help curtail it to some degree. Is there a seconder for that? Thank you, Councillor Schuldeis. Questions? All in favor? All opposed? Carried. Council, the recommendation is that the municipality of Southwest Middlesex receive the consent agenda from items 5A to 5F. And Council has supported FE and F5. Motion for that. Thank you, Councillor Bartlett. Seconder? Councillor McGill. Discussion? All in favor? Motion's carried. Chief, I'm not picking on you there tonight, but how are we doing? We got a guest among us?
Have we got them registered or they have not registered?
Yeah.
Yeah, it says in the agenda that that's for 8 p.m.
Yes,
So-
I'm aware of that. Yeah.
So
is it? Yeah.
shouldn't we wait till 8 p.m.
Yeah.
and they'll probably be here?
I think so. Yeah.
Mr. Mayor and Council, with your indulgence, I'd like to, if we could proceed with the agenda and if we could fit them in at the end. But again, I will not be holding up the council meeting if we attain our business for the night completed. We will proceed with master fire plan at that time.
Okay, no problem. No, the delegation section of the agenda came very early on the agenda there, but I'm well aware that it indicates that it's 8 p.m. We'll certainly extend every courtesy to them, Chief, we possibly can, with no exception. Committee of Adjustment, there's none. Public meetings, there is none. Staff reports. A1, we'll leave that. 8B, Stephanie, we're going to jump to you early. You might be able to get home earlier tonight. Yes, Kendra. Okay, it can go. All right. Okay. Fire compensation review. Then the council received the report. Yes, Chief, would you like to give that?
Sure, Mr. Mayor and Council, thank you for tonight. This was just a high-level review of the request that Council directed myself to bring back a staff report, understanding with the election close by, and that this is for information for the finance as well as fire to move forward on a budgetary ask in 2023. So really what I solicited was 11 fire departments in Elgin, Middlesex. Not everyone replied back. However, when I did the high level review of wages and honorariums, it was noted to achieve the 50 percentile that an increase of 18,682.58 would be needed to achieve that in the fire department budget payroll in 2023. So I went to that extent to get us to the 50 percentile, and I just wanted to fulfill council's wish to bring back this report for the jurisdictional review of our wages in the fire service. And that was the information that was provided me back from a number of municipalities.
Thank you. We appreciate that very much, Chief. And we are receiving this for Information Council, and we'll discuss that in the budget. It'll be part of our budget. Yes, Councillor Cal, please go ahead.
Thank you. I was the one that had requested this because of multitude of different reasons. But one of the things that we've been hearing is that the fire marshal has requested a higher level of training expectation from our firefighters. And I think as a result of this higher expectation of training, an increased pay needs to go along with that. So I think this is a valid and important piece. And with that in mind, I will move the recommendation that the fire compensation review be included for discussion in the 2023 budget decision.
Thank you. Council, seconder for that, please. Councillor McGill, discussion. All in favor? Thank you, Councillor Choi, for conflict there. We're at 7:12. Yeah, you bet. Stephanie, you're on board with the administration, Southwest Middlesex official plan review, OPA 3. The floor is yours, Stephanie, and thanks for being with us.
Thank you. So as council will recall, Monteith Brown Planning Consultants was retained by the County of Middlesex to complete a 5-year update to the Southwest Middlesex official plan. The scope of the work focused on text updates in order to reflect provincial planning legislation changes and ensure consistency with the provincial policy statement and conformity with the County of Middlesex official plan. A summary of background information that was completed by Monteith Brown, as well as proposed policy changes, can be found within the discussion paper, again, completed by Monteith Brown, which has been included as attachments to the report on the agenda. I just wanted to highlight that throughout this process, there was a series of opportunities for public and agency engagement throughout this process. So the notice for the official plan update was circulated in accordance with the requirements of the Planning Act for both the special meeting of council, which took place on June the 22nd, as well as the statutory public meeting that took place on August the 24th. Additionally, on top of the Planning Act requirements, information on the upcoming public meetings was advertised through social media, as well as available on the Southwest Middlesex website. The public and agency comments have been included as an attachment to the report as well. And Monteith Brown Consulting, in consultation with Southwest Middlesex staff, have provided a revised bylaw, which has regard for public, agency, and council comments received through the entirety of the consultation process. It is noted that we did receive 6 written submissions from agencies and 1 member of the public. However, no oral submissions were received from the 2 council meetings, which had a public meeting component to them. Staff are of the opinion that the proposed policy changes will be in conformity with the Planning Act, have regard for matters of provincial interest, be consistent with the provincial policy statement, and will be in conformity with the County of Middlesex official plan. Additionally, staff feel that the proposed policy changes will reflect the current social, cultural, economic, and natural environment of Southwest Middlesex. So it is recommended that council confirm its regard for all submissions received through the public and agency consultation process, and that the official plan amendment be adopted and forwarded to the County of Middlesex for County Council's consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. Council, you've heard the recommendations. Are there any questions you wish to put through the chair to Stephanie before we bring it to the table? No questions? Would someone entertain to accept the recommendation? Yep, thank you. And seconded by Councillor Bartlett. Last call for questions. All in favor? Carried. Council, the next under administration is the night market. There are, as you know, committees bring forth the recommendations to council for approval or denial, and this is the onus of this recommendation. Kristen, would you like to speak to this, or Mike, would you like to speak to this? Sheila, okay.
Sheila is present,
on.
but I can give a broad overview. This is obviously a committee of council. The committee has made a decision on what they would like to see happen. So they're sending their recommendation forth via the Economic Development Officer and the Economic Development Committee. So if Sheila has anything to add, I'll let her speak to this now, but I think that pretty much sums it up. If there's any members of the committee that are sitting here tonight, I'm sure that they'll have some input to influence council on the decision that's at hand.
Yep, Sheila, please go ahead if there's anything you'd like to add.
No, I believe Mike covered that very well. He said exactly what I would say. So I guess I'll open it up as well to committee members.
Okay, thank you very much. That's great. And it's great that we're moving ahead with this. It's certainly puts us on the map, keeps us competitive. Council, is there someone that would endorse the recommendation? Councillor Bartlett, seconder. Councillor McGill. Questions? Yes, go ahead. Councillor Cal.
I just wanted to confirm that this would mean that the train station rental would not be charged for this event.
I think that's a reasonable request. Yeah, we can add that. Would you like to amend the recommendation to include that? Can
Well,
we see?
It just mentions it in the financial implications, but I wanted it to be made clear because when they ran the event last year, that wasn't so clear. And the organization ended up having to have individuals personally finance that for a community economic development event.
Okay, any comment on that, Kristen?
Sorry, yes, if it's our committee renting it, then yes, it would be free of charge.
Okay, and Councillor Bartlett, I saw your hand. You're okay? Okay, that's fine. Then the recommendation can stand as it is. Yes. Yep.
Having said that, Kristen, would every volunteer, every member that's on this and taking part in the market be covered under the insurance as well?
Yes, that's correct.
Yep, similar to what Canada Day was. Yep. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. I'll call the question. All in favor? Carried. And there was producer responsibility recycling. Mike, that has been pulled from the agenda. Would you like to clarify that for the benefit of the public and council?
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. We've pulled the item just due to the fact that it narrows down. We could put a little bit more detail in the report for one. The second item is it's staff are designed to provide recommendations to council and good recommendations with good reason. So we'll come back with a very clear recommendation for you on the October 26th meeting in that regard.
Okay. Yes, Councillor Cal, please go ahead.
My one comment for that was that back at budget time in January, we had requested a report back about our recycling and the producer pay process as an informative opportunity for council. Many of us that have attended Roma and AMO over the years have heard about this producer pay process and how it's coming in and the changes it will have to our garbage and recycling process. And we did ask for a report to come back so that the rest of council could be at the same level as those of us taking additional training. However, we haven't had the opportunity to have that report at this time.
Thank you. And thank you, Mike, for that. And that will come forth down the road. We're on 8C, Council Building. There's none. 8D, Finance. There is none. And Operations, Playground Equipment. Alex is not with us this evening. So Kristen, could you walk us through 8E1, Appen Playground Equipment?
Absolutely. From what I understand, the contractors that are working on Appen Playground think that it would be advantageous as they're constructing the playground to put that armor stone as kind of a boundary around it. They say it'll be good for drainage, it'll keep kind of the ground cover in place, but most importantly, it provides a barrier between the children and any cars that may pull up, so a bit of a safety buffer there for the kids. Because it's an addition to the costs that are already in there, we would need to move about $15,000 from another area to cover these costs. My proposal was the engineered wood fiber, but if council's uncomfortable with that, we could move it from there for now, and then we raise that in the 2023 budget, so that we still have the funds available for the ground cover and the playgrounds.
Okay, thank you very much. Councilor, are there any questions to Kristen you'd like to post to her? Yes, Deputy Mayor, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mayor Mayhew. So Krista, my only concern with taking that 15,000 out of there, and you did say that if it is used, it could be put back in for next year's budget. But my only concern is that it will be removed and not put back in. And Wardsville Playground ground cover really needs some attention. It's in poor shape, to say the least, and I was hoping that something would have been done with it this year. So that's my only concern. And do you have a comment on that?
I can assure you that I will put it back into the budget, and then it would be up to council to endorse that in the 2023 capital budget.
I'm pretty confident you can put it back in, Kristen. I guess my concern is that it gets removed. That's my only fear. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry, just to pose a question through your worship to the treasurer. Kristen, would there be an opportunity for it to come immediately from reserves in that category rather than have the juggle of accounts? With council's approval, of course.
Yes, we could do that.
Okay. Yes, Councilor Cal.
The individuals, the park in Melbourne has the wood fiber there, and it has been very successful in mitigating the weeds. It has also been very successful in getting rid of the wasp problem that is there. And it has ultimately rejuvenated that playground. So I am in agreement with Deputy Mayor Wilkins in being hesitant to take it out. This project was supposed to be done a year or two ago, and I'm not willing to take the money out for fear that it doesn't happen. So with that in mind, I would move that council authorize the transfer of the 15,000 from reserves rather than the engineered wood fiber.
Yeah. All right, thank you very much. Councilor Scholes, did I see your hand? Question? Yes.
Thank you, Mayor Mayhew. I'm just wondering, with the additional costs that we're incurring here, how was the decision made to locate the playground in this location?
We haven't got Alex with us tonight. Do administration have that? I know there was significant work done on that location. I think it had a lot to do with drainage and grade and safety, but Kristen, you can add to that.
I think they definitely had some on-site meetings. So I can assume that between the operations manager and the facilities and recreation supervisor and the project managers for the playground, that they landed on what they thought was the best location for the project.
Yeah, one follow-up there.
I really think this decision should be made by council. And do we know if there's any municipal drains running through this area?
Those are questions that we may not be able to get the answers to tonight, but we do trust staff to give us good recommendations, and they have put, I know, a significant amount of work in it. But Kristen, could you add to that?
I think that there is a municipal drain in the area that has been marked, and they're steering clear of that. There's also been a well that's been decommissioned on site as well.
Thank you.
Yes, I saw your hand. Go ahead.
The county accessibility coordinator was involved in this too. And I think the park couldn't be put in the place it has been because that's in a direct line with the ballpark, and balls have come down right in the playground. So that was one reason for moving it. And another reason was more accessible over by closer to the parking lot. And
Yeah, I remember that discussion coming up about the home runs going over there when Greg was here. Yes, Councillor Cal.
Through the chair to Councillor Schuldeis, we heard this same question when this project came up, and we were informed additionally that for accessibility purposes, having it close to the covered area adds a more inclusive nature to it. This is not just an accessible playground, it is an inclusive playground. Some children get overstimulated, some children need shade, and so having it closer to the pavilion is an additional feature to the entire inclusive nature of the playground equipment, which we heard at a council meeting.
Okay, yes. One more question, Councillor.
Thank you for that information, Councillor Cowell. Will we be moving the fueling station that's directly across the road from it?
Through the chair to the councillor. I am not a staff member. However, I was present at that council meeting where we received that information.
Okay, well, it's unfortunate that Alex is not here to arbitrate this, but we will certainly take both your comments under consideration, and they've been noted. Kristen, this conversation came up actually because of some urgency in phasing and the development. Could you express to council the timeline and why this has come before us when it has?
Absolutely. As far as I know, the construction's underway, set to be finished within the next, like mid-November should be finished.
Okay, and it was important to have this decision made so that they could place those that
Yes.
armor stone. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you. It has been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Yes, go ahead. Okay. Yeah,
thank you,
Councillor
Mayor
McGill.
Mayhew. I just wondered if anybody knows, has work started this week? Because I took a look on the weekend and I don't think anything had started at that point.
Yep. I haven't been there in the last 24 hours, so I can't tell you that. Yep. Take a drive around tomorrow. Okay, it's been, so there's a motion on the floor. It's been seconded. All in favor? Carried unanimously. And the winter sand tender results, can you bring that forward to Council, Kristen?
Thank you, Your Worship. I think I'm jumping
Okay.
on that one,
Yep,
actually,
okay.
so I appreciate it. So the reason this is coming to before council is because the low tender was not selected in this process. However, much like when you buy an implement or a piece of equipment, if there's a service contract that comes along with that, well, then that's the one you go with despite the price, or if it's in the reasonable nature. So in this case, the winning proponent is adding a body to this to help mediate everything and organize all of the loads that come in at each site. So the little bit of a difference in there is certainly nice to have a double check and measures triple checked to ensure that we're getting everything that we have purchased.
Okay, thank you, Michael, for that. Councillor Vink, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mayor Mayhew. To Mike or Kristen, I was going to ask about the attendance. I believe we have staff on site all the time as well, do we not? And how often will this attendance be there?
I can't speak to either of those things in this case. I can't imagine that staff would be there at every delivery and every time there would be a situation there and the attendant, any attendant is more than the 0 attendants that are being offered by the other proponent.
One more question. Go ahead,
Well,
follow up.
Just a follow up. Well, so you're not even sure how long the attendant's going to be there. So there was a difference in the tender, and so it would have been nice to know how much of a difference the attendance made for the whole bid.
That information, I'm sure the administration would share with you on a confidential basis. Yep.
It's fairly easy to calculate the extra cost because it says 3,501 tons. The difference between the two bids is 35 cents a ton. So that's just a little over $1,200. That's the cost extra we're paying to have an attendant provided. And I'm wondering, do we normally have, other years have we had an attendant provided?
Yes, from what Rob told me, they need to move the stacker a little when the pile gets too high. Forgive my lack of technical knowledge, but it's easier to have their attendant there to do that maneuvering rather than have one of our guys pulled off the road and stay behind in order to supervise that as it's happening.
Okay.
Thank you.
Michael, yeah,
Thank you, Your
go
Worship.
ahead.
Just to add in, that would be 1 employee for 1 week's time, just for mathematical sake.
Okay.
On Councilor
That
McGill's.
That may clarify it to Councillor Vink. Okay. Commission, is there a mover and a second? Yeah, moved by Deputy Mayor Wilkins. Is there a second for that, please? Councillor Choi, thank you. Last call for discussion. All in favor? Carried. Mike, there's no notice of motions. Correspondence and petitions, none.
Sir, can I interrupt?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry.
Our fire guys are ready to present.
Okay, thank you very much. Then we'll call off at notice of motion, and we'll head back to delegations. Lyle and Gary, perhaps you're with us now. I'm going to have Chief Sewell officially introduce you, and we certainly welcome you to Southwest Middlesex. That's a very extensive report. I hope you're good at paraphrasing, but we'll certainly allow a more formal introduction by our chief.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. It's my pleasure to introduce Rick Monkman to the right up there on our screen, or however you may see him. And Gary Mossberger, he can wave, and there you go, no matter where you see them on the screen. And Lyle may or may not be joining us. And unfortunately, we have Daryl Colley that's on his way here, but with council's indulgence, we're going to move forward and not to hold everyone up tonight. It was a very fast council meeting so far. So I would like to, this started back in around April, this very conclusive overview of our fire department. And I will commend that emergency management group for striving to achieve all my requests throughout this project. And some of my requests were quite extensive. And one being that everyone was interviewed, from the mayor, council, senior management, firefighters, and all the way through to our bordering fire departments, from Chatham, Kent to Chippewa to Melbourne and Strathroy, as well as anyone that had a bit of a stakeholder in our fire department. So it was very, as the mayor said, it's a very long item that we have here tonight, and I'm sure that Gary and Rick will be able to paraphrase the highlights here. So without further ado, I'll hand it over to them. They have years of experience, and one of the people that are on the screen there, I've known Rick for probably 27 years, and he was the individual that first hired me in the fire service back in '94. So it's his fault that you have me here as your fire chief, but I will throw it over to them with all their experience and knowledge, and to present a high level overview of the great fire department we already have, and some of the needs and improvements that we could move forward with over the next 7 years with council support. So I will throw it over to Gary to start with the presentation.
Thanks, Chief Schul. And thanks for having us, Mayor and Council. It's a great honor to be here tonight to present to you your first master fire plan for your township and municipality there. We've done a lot of work to prepare ourselves for tonight. Rick was instrumental of preparing our community risk assessment. So most of the questions for the community risk assessment will be directed to him. The master fire plan content and questions can be directed to myself. So if we're ready to start the presentation, we'll get going on that.
Thank you, Gary. We're just working on that.
Mr. Mayor, I'll just set it up here as being the share the screen, and I'll get the presentation up.
You got her.
Oh, sorry. Nope.
Almost there.
Sorry about that. So let's see which one I had to.
Yeah, no, I don't think so.
Hopefully I got the right one. I apologize. I had
No
it.
problem.
I had it and I deleted it. Do you have it?
Yeah, Mike's got it. He believes, and
Perfect.
We'll find it on Mike's computer. It happens.
This is where the Jeopardy music comes in.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Okay. Gary, so Kendra has the screen.
Yep.
So just tell her as you move forward.
Perfect. So what you can see here is Emergency Management Group has put together a process for how we put together your document. We begin by basically looking at stakeholder consultation. Doing our research and information gathering is a really big part of what we do. So collecting the data, collecting everything that we basically turn the fire service inside and out, look for how it is meeting legislative requirements. And then obviously through that analysis, we draft up recommendations and discussions with the fire chief and stakeholders. So along with the assistance and input from your staff, we've been able to complete a full review of the department and the services offered through these steps here that you can see. You can move on to the next stage. So the fire protection model. So the key focus of this master fire plan revolves around the 3 lines of defense for public safety. So you have the middle circle, which is your residents of the community. We have to make sure that we have public education and play, or safety standards and enforcement. Emergency management is a key component. And then ultimately, the last line of defense is your emergency response. A big part of most municipalities only ever really see your emergency response component, because that's when the worst days come for some person within the municipality. Preparation for getting your fire service ready and reducing potentials is ultimately the goal of the fire department, reducing fires, reducing incidences that are impacting your community. So public fire safety education is a key component. You do code enforcement through those inspections. Emergency response capabilities are all outlined within the actual plan. And at EMG, we're also consider the following as a key partner to the above three lines. And emergency management, like I mentioned earlier, is something that's done with consultation with I'm sorry, I'm losing my the words here. It's externally brought in, so thanks.
Yeah,
Can you go to the
emergency,
next one?
Gary, just so
Yep.
emergency management's done with in cooperation with our county partners.
Yeah, sorry. County was the word I was looking for. I just wasn't there at the tip of my tongue. So the recommendations here are based on a number of key things. So we do look at the governance, the staff, your fire prevention component, your training that you're providing to your firefighters. We look at your fire stations, condition assessments of those fire stations, and how long they ultimately are going to last for the duration of, give you an idea of how long you're going to be. Emergency operations, how you actually function as a fire department. We look at how the fire service is dispatched, how communications are utilized for fire operations to actually function, as well as even to look as far as the budgetary and financial implications of long-term decision-making, whether that's a capital investments or operational investments. So we have put together 40 recommendations that are either operational or strategic in their focus. It's important to understand that not all of the recommendations are necessary that council has to decide how those things are done. Usually those things are done through the consultation with the fire chief and CAO. The operational recommendations can be addressed mostly by the staff and require little to no cost as well. Whereas strategic recommendations require large financial investment and possible council approval. And these are the key noted ones that are within this presentation for council's consideration tonight. Can move on. So within the recommendation overview, within administration alone, we are looking at that the fire chief's position looks to transition from a part-time into a full-time position within the next 4 to 6 years. We believe that's as your municipality is growing and more things are put onto the fire chief, it's absolutely essential that you have the right leadership in place in order to make sure that the fire department's functional within that role. With all the day-to-day challenges, obviously in operating the fire department, the fire chief experiences an increase in both administrative and operational duties to ensure that all fire prevention training and administration duties are carried out in that effective manner. Consideration should also be given to the hiring of a part-time deputy fire chief that would be working a 21-hour work week to assist in managing the newly implemented Ontario Fire Marshal's training and certification requirements. You can move on to the next one. Recommendation overview. So fire prevention, fire and life safety education. Here you're looking at to be more proactive. There is a need to increase the hours of the fire prevention officer to enhance inspection programs and levels of frequency of inspections. This is a really key and important piece within the municipality to ensure that you can reduce the amount of fires So obviously enhancing focus on promoting fire and life safety education is really, really important. And you need to make sure that you're putting enough hours into that position in order to make that effective and efficient. Training, with the new Ontario Fire Marshal training and certification regulation, there will be an increased need for training and records management. This will require greater investment by the township. There'll be we are recommending that you create a chief training officer position, part-time to start. I believe that is somewhere between 8 to 10 hours a week. There is also a need for the firefighters to receive live fire training on an annual basis. That's definitely a recommendation that we mentioned to a lot of municipalities, because a lot of volunteer firefighters just don't get the reps that they need with respect to the number of fires they actually go to. They need to be very well prepared to deal with those types of incidences. So we did look at the potential of a number of different options that council can vote on or look at from the fire chief. One of those being potentially the purchasing of a mobile training unit. This is something that I know Chief Schul had utilized this past summer for your firefighters, which the Ontario Fire Marshal's office currently owns. It's more of a brand new concept, delivering live fire training to Ontario fire services across Ontario here. Can move on. Training program. So Southwest Middlesex Fire Department to define training goals and expectations based on the services offered and develop an annual training program. That's a really important component to ensure that the training programs are essentially dealing with the needed trainings that firefighters do on a day-to-day basis. This goes back to your core competencies that your firefighters perform for fires, for auto extrication type of events, any specialized services that your firefighters provide your municipality. Southwest Middlesex Fire Department conducts a needs assessment to identify what additional training props are required to ensure the firefighters meet training requirements. So as I said earlier, there's the type of trailer that, again, could be purchased and used by your firefighters. It's a great tool, and Chief Schul will probably follow up with the positive with the firefighters that used it this year, that they felt it very positive. So can move on. Okay. I apologize for the Glencoe Fire Station picture, because that is clearly not the Glencoe Fire Station. Anyways, that station is obviously Melbourne Station. By accidentally was put in here. Anyways, the stations themselves were reviewed by myself in person. The Glencoe station is in incredible shape. It was very well thought through. It has an incredible amount of space for the firefighters to train, for administration work to be done with the offices that are there. And I know that there's other spaces that are being used from other areas. Whereas the Wardsville Fire Station is at its end of life. It is absolutely in dire need of a replacement, and is something that we would, as a recommendation, look to replace in the very near future. At this point, none of the stations have no diesel exhaust systems whatsoever for protecting the health of the firefighters when a fire truck has to start its engine inside the apparatus bay and pull out to go to an incident. None of that diesel exhaust is being captured directly from the fire truck and being ventilated outside. As you know, diesel exhaust is carcinogenic, so it is cancer causing, and it's something to be concerned about at council level. You can carry on to the next one. So fire stations, vehicle concerns. So proximity of the firefighter's gear in relation to the vehicle exhaust system. So we are recommending that a bunker gear room be designed at the Glencoe station. to protect the bunker gear itself from the unnecessary vehicle exhaust. And there, it is not 100% full captured, so you do need a negative pressure type of room for your gear. All the stations appear to be a maximum capacity for vehicles and equipment storage. So with the new recommended Wardsville station, you should be looking at considering enough space to ensure that you can have enough space for growth, as well as anything of potential, whether you're looking at a combined type of space, whether it's a community center or something like that, that could be joined up with it, which I believe is within the strategic plan within other plans of the municipality. The fire apparatus themselves need to be placed on a replacement schedule. We recommend at the 20-year life cycle. At this point, it's at a 25-year life cycle. That is something that the fire chief does need to look at to see if that is something that the municipality feels is important to you guys. Can move on. So the fire station current locations and their call clustering. So you'll notice the top, to the left here, this is basically your NFPA 14-minute response times from that current station based on different things like speed limits, stop signs, as far as a fire truck could travel from the current locations. So the blue one is obviously an area that is obviously shown for Wardsville, covers the area very, very well. Glencoe Station also covers a great deal of area as well. Of course, there are some minor gaps to the west, to the north, and to the east from that area. Based on current, from last 2 years of call data, what year was that again? Doesn't actually say. I believe that was in 2019. The call actual data is identified with black dots on there. And you'll notice that there's only a few of them that are actually outside of that 14-minute response time. So the current fire station locations are in pretty decent shape for certainly Glencoe. Wardsville, we do recommend a different location in a more appropriate site, more to the north of Wardsville, to allow for a better response to that northwest area that's not currently being covered very well. You can move on. So during the walkthroughs and review of the Wardsville Fire Station, it's EMG's opinion that the building currently in Wardsville is in very poor condition, with major upgrades needed in the short term, which is why we recommend a full replacement. It also does not have enough capacity for its current purpose. The fire trucks actually have to be pulled out of the fire station in order to be maintained, to be washed, and put back into service, which makes it a challenge for wintertime use for the firefighters using that station. The office space is rather cramped as well, and it is directly off of the apparatus bays, which doesn't suit well for a very healthy environment for the firefighters to work in. The apparatus bay is actually also used as the training room, which is not ideal due to those conditions as well. While there was a general space used as a unisex washroom and decontamination sink, there was no emergency decontamination shower observed. So any firefighters that had any type of chemical spill or something happened where they got something in their eye, no showers available for them to actually use for decontamination purposes. For those that know Wardsville, of course, the parking space is very limited as well. To better serve the community, EMG recommends that a new fire station be built and located in the vicinity of Haggerty Road, north of Talbot Street. This location would provide coverage to the areas of high development in the immediate Wardsville area, and in addition to the east encompassing the current fire response area. As far as it's the current location, there's just not enough space to accomplish all of the things that we mentioned here. So with the cost of a new fire station, would be looking at acquiring new land as well. And our estimation of value for a new building and land acquisition would be somewhere within the $2.4 million of cost. Carry on. It must be noted as well that during our assessment, it was quite evident that the Southwest Middlesex Fire Department is made up of a group of dedicated professional personnel who are committed to improving their levels of service provision to meet the needs of the community. We would like to thank everyone who assisted in the development of this master fire plan and the community risk assessment. As a final note, this presentation has only been a high-level overview of the strategic items that would require council approval. There were also many operational recommendations. But again, as I mentioned earlier, the operational recommendations can be addressed by the fire chief and the volunteers with little to no cost. So the next steps, review the recommendations and create a plan for moving forward. We have provided a timeline of what we believe are short-term and mid-term timelines. Those are available within the main document itself, which I believe has been shared with council. Feasibility study should be conducted related to the fire station recommendations. Document and implement and completion of the recommendations. Track level of improvement based on the response times, whether the stations are closed or relocated. The staff training and retention is an important piece, and improvements in the fire prevention and public education is also something to get going on as well. So I'd like to thank everybody for the opportunity here. At this point, we can take any questions that any council members or the mayor may have.
Thank you, Gary, very much. Council, we do appreciate that presentation. The chair will call for questions. Mark, I see your hand. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Mayhew. Could you address the closing of the Melbourne Hall? I'm not sure when that's supposed to happen, but Strathroy Caradoc has said they're going to close it and build a new hall closer to Mount Bridges. And they cover a fair bit of area in Southwest Middlesex. So how are we going to deal with that?
So we did do a lot of data collection with respect to call volumes, as you saw in that one map there. The current mutual aid plan with Strathroy Caradoc, I believe, is still going until December 31st of 2023, where there's then, of course, a 3-year renewal. At that point, I think council needs to determine what next steps are to be done. Melbourne isn't closing tomorrow, but there is a date within Strathroy Caradoc that they are looking to close that station. I believe the fire chief has a number of options available to him to bring to council that are appropriate. And again, we don't want to get too deep into the weeds on where you should make those decisions, but there's certainly a number of options as far as looking at an automatic aid agreement and looking for other service capabilities that you have available to you.
Thank you, Mark. Any further questions, council? Yes, Councillor Vink, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Mayhew. You mentioned about new Wardsville Fire Station and north of Talbot Street. Of course, north of Talbot Street would still be in Wardsville. Are you recommending that it still be in Wardsville?
We did do a bit of scouting out of the area. And I apologize, I'm not familiar with all of the streets. I know that just north of basically the residential area, there does appear to be some potential options there, depending on what real estate availability is, and as well as where your other recreational opportunities might be as well. We would believe that would be a very feasible option for you. It would still provide fantastic coverage for the town of Wardsville, but also provide even better coverage to that northwest area that's currently has a bit of a gap there.
Okay, thank you. Council, any further questions? Mark, yep, go ahead.
Yep, thank you, Mayor Mayhew. What would your thoughts be on just having one fire hall instead of a fire hall for Wardsville and a fire hall for Newbury? And I realize Newbury is a separate municipality. They'd have to be consulted and come on side, but it seems to me having two fire halls, maybe 5 minutes apart, doesn't really make much sense. And one fire hall would be better.
So what I can say is during my consultations, that was a fire chief that did not respond to my request for having a conversation about that. So I believe that that's within the municipalities. The fire chiefs need to have a discussion. The municipalities need to have a discussion about what suits each municipality the best as far as how their fire service should be provided to each of their municipalities. I understand Newbury is kind of like an island in the middle of everything. I get that, but they are their own municipality. So it is a challenge, when we are, you're looking at cost cutting and keeping the costs of services to a reasonable amount for your taxpayers. In this case, I still do believe EMG recommends having that station there, and perhaps there's other options that can be discovered in the future.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, if I may add
Yes,
something.
go ahead. Go on.
The recommendations from EMG is exactly what staff was looking at in the area. Councillor Vink brought it up. The farther we move out of Wardsville, the longer drive time we have to get to the station. So even if we built the station in the recommendation that is provided in the north end of Wardsville, if something down the road came up, we still would be able to service that area. But again, they're a different municipality. It's totally up to that municipality to make that decision. But if we can make decisions in our best interest, that area would be captured within the 14-minute response time without an issue, wherever we decide that we need to put the fire hall to best serve our municipality at this point.
Okay, thank you.
And Mr. Mayor, I just want to introduce Daryl Colley. He's at the back here. He is the owner of EMG Group and would be more than happy to take some questions, I'm sure, after his few-minute drive down here to come and see us from Barrie. So I just wanted to make sure council was aware of that, or if you have any ad hoc questions after the meeting, he will be available.
Okay, thank you very much, Chief. Daryl, thank you for making that drive. And it's an impressive report, and we certainly thank EMG for doing that and the diligence you had in communicating to all council members. Deputy Mayor, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mayor Mayhew. Thank you very much for this. It's very detailed. And we all know that there's been a lot of changes that have occurred with training and certification of fire departments in the last few years. And I'm sure there will be more to come. I think every municipality in Middlesex County is experiencing growth, some rapid, but I think we can agree we are all experiencing some form of growth. And I see the recommendations for full-time staff members. And I would just comment that I think what we will see down the road, I'm not going to say in the next few years, but I think what we'll see down the road, because of costs associated with moving forward like this, we'll see something like the Middlesex County take over fire services. I think that's the only way that we smaller rural municipalities will be able to afford to move forward. So that's just a comment. It may never happen, but just a comment. Thank you very much, Mayor Mayhew.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, Councilor Cal, question? No, you're okay? All right. Okay, well, again, Gary, Rick, Daryl, we want to thank you very much for your work on this. It's a major component of our fire department, is a significant part of our budget apportionment. Plan forward is just good business, and we appreciate that. And I remind council too that we're mandated to have this plan, are we not?
Mr. Mayor, I was just going to, I'd be remiss if I didn't give Rick Monkman a chance to just speak quickly on
Sure.
the community risk assessment, which is the legislated item that we are required to do by 2024. So it's a very important item. And the reason I brought it forward with the master fire plan is it's not legislated, but it's best practice. And if we're going to do a CRA or a community risk assessment, this was the most timely manner to do it in with both of them. Cost effectiveness, as well as they really dovetail into each other for us to have a roadmap moving forward for the next few years. And the CRA, community risk assessment, is a live document, and we will be building on this over time. So I would hand it over to Rick Monkman just to say a few words. And if Daryl would like to comment about the CRA, I will open the floor to them.
Okay, Rick, you want to go first there? Go ahead, you have the floor.
Sure. Thank you very much. And thanks for the opportunity to speak to council tonight. The community risk assessment, as the chief said, is a legislated document that every municipality has to have completed by July of 2024. If I might note, I want to congratulate your municipality for being proactive in getting it, because the fines for not having one, if charged by the OFM, are very staggering. The first offense is a $500,000 fine, and the second offense is 1.5 million. So I hope most municipalities like yourselves get on the bandwagon, so to speak, to complete one. If I might say, there's 9 worksheets that we look at when we do the community risk assessment. We look at demographics, building stock, the fire department's operation, the community at whole, the past history of what calls they've had, what types of calls they go to, and then we formulate a plan, or we identify shortcomings or where we think that improvements could be made. Now that the plan is completed, the chief should meet with his deputies and design a community risk reduction plan. That is when they'll sort of dissect the CRA, and then they formulate a plan how they move forward. The community risk assessments really focus on the first 2 lines of defense, as Gary mentioned, which is public education and code enforcement and inspections. And that's why a lot of it is bringing forward. So there's going to be a lot more emphasis put on fire prevention and public education, that they expect that to take place more often. There's been some very staggering data just coming out of the fire marshal's office this week regarding the number of fatalities this year. And due to the lack of smoke detectors, or working smoke alarms, I should say, some of these fatalities could have been prevented. So that will be burden upon the municipality going forward. We'll say that we have been recommending municipalities not make their community risk assessment open document to the public. The reason being, there are some areas within it that we consider confidential, and that your local individual that may have an axe to grind with the municipality might enjoy some of the information within the document and cause some havoc or damage to the municipality infrastructure. So we do caution about making it a public document. The chief will have it as an operational document, and it'll help him plan in conjunction with the fire master plan where the department moves forward from here. Okay, Daryl, if you'd like to say anything, go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, Council, thank you for this opportunity. I'm very proud of our team, Gary and Rick and Lyle, who worked with your chief to develop the master fire plan and the community risk assessment. As Rick had said, the community risk assessment is such a critical part of ensuring the municipality provide adequate fire prevention, both through education and code enforcement. And therefore, you'll see those recommendations in the community risk assessment are extended through the master plan when we talk about increasing your staff hours and that sort of thing. They build with each other in order to move the community forward in reducing its risk. Rick and Gary are most familiar with the report, and I'm sure they can answer any questions that you may have.
Okay. Thank you very much. We appreciate that. Council, any further questions? Yes, Councillor Choi, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to say thank you for this fantastic report. It is thorough. There's a lot of innovative ideas and concepts there. Reading through the report, I saw that roughly 25% of Glencoe and Wardville calls are live fires or explosions. So the need for having a mobile live fire training facility, I think, is paramount, especially for the safety of our firefighters and for the residents. With that being said, I'd like to move the recommendation.
Okay, thank you. Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Bartlett. Discussion, any further discussion? Chair will call the motion. All in favor? All opposed? Carried.
Mr. Mayor and Council, thanks for indulging us tonight and delaying it a little bit. Sorry we couldn't wait till Daryl got here fully, but I appreciate Gary and Rick presenting tonight to council and giving a really good, thorough overview and an understanding of a really comprehensive document that we will make use of over the next at least 7 years to move forward. And it's a great roadmap. So my appreciation to all of you, and appreciating the council for approving this project in this year's budget and seeing it come to completion. And I appreciate all the support.
Thank you, Chief. It's our pleasure. Thank you. Safe trip, gentlemen. Thank you again.
I know.
Well, that worked out well. Council, thank you. Notice of motion is 9. There's none, I believe. Mike, correct me if I'm wrong. Correspondence and petitions, I have none. Unfinished business, there's nothing in my notes. New business, nothing was moved. We dealt with that in, yes, Councillor Cal. Yeah, yeah, go ahead.
Mayor, if I could we please have a moment of silence for the 2 fallen officers who were killed in the line of duty today?
Yeah, I opened that. I said I'd do that under announcements. Okay, is when I did that, Deputy Mayor. So at the first of the meeting, I said I would put that under announcements, and we're just on the threshold of that. Okay, and we certainly will. New business. Is there any? Okay, thank you. County Council and conference updates. Anyone take a trip recently? And 14 announcements. Yes, we'll certainly start off. Thank you, Deputy Mayor, for bringing that to the floor's attention. 2 officers lost their lives in the line of duty in the Innisfil area, which I'm very familiar with. I have family that live in that region. And without any further ado, we will have a moment of silence for them. And we'll begin now. We will remember them in our hearts always. Thank you very much, council. Any further announcements? Yes, go ahead. Doug?
Thank you, Mayor. Everyone around this table is going to be aware of it, but for any new candidates or the general public that may be watching tonight, it's just a reminder that the Lions Club are holding no candidates meeting tomorrow night, 7 o'clock at the high school.
Okay.
Thank you.
We'll be there. And any further announcements? Any events? I see in my calendar, October 19th, Glencoe Ag drive-through dinner. And that's one. Any others? Good. I think we've covered everything then. Closed session, there is none scheduled. Council, there are 4 bylaws that have been circulated to council. I'll entertain a motion that the bylaws be adopted as presented and circulated. Yes, Councillor Cowell, thank you. Seconder for that. Councillor Vink, and discussion. All in favor? Thank you. Future meetings are subject to change. Wednesday, October 26th, 7 p.m. And yep.
With your permission, I'd like to have council entertain that the November 9th meeting perhaps be canceled. Currently, we've got a meeting October 26th. We have a meeting November 2nd with the new council from an orientation standpoint, and a ton of other meetings that you're going to have to go to pending you're sitting at the horseshoe upon election. There are no items pending for that agenda.
Okay.
And with council's situation being lame, there likely is not to be any from a financial implication standpoint. So just something for council to entertain.
Okay. And do you want a motion to that effect, or do you just want that between yourself and the mayor, or do you want a motion? Okay. If someone entertain a motion that we cancel the November 9th meeting, the chair will accept it. Thank you. Moved by Councillor Vinks, seconded by Deputy Mayor Wilkins. Discussion. All in favor? Carried. And council, I just remind you too that we're just going to take a photo op after this is adjourned, this meeting. So just hang on for a moment and we'll do that. I'm just looking around the room there. There's a good blank wall right over there that might be the best backdrop for a photo. There's a lot of noise on the other walls. So that's probably your best venue. We perhaps can corral over there following the meeting. And I move the meeting be adjourned at 8:18. Thank you, council.